Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Nadiah binti Shukeri. My metric number is 1181388. Welcoming and respected to my assessor, Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Wifaq bin Mokhtar, and my supervisor, Dr. Mustafa Afifi bin Abdul Halim, and fellow friends. Today, I'm going to present about my research study retitled The Responsibility of Halal Product Manufacturers in Protecting Consumer from Legal and Sharia Perspective. As we know, halal and haram are a sensitive matter for Muslims. Nowadays, uh, we always hear about the issues such as misuse of halal logo, material fraud, and widespread falsification of food content. Every consumer needs to get the right they deserve, and they must be protected. So, the objective of my research is identifying the concept of halal and consumer protection in Malaysia, analyze the legislation and Sharia perspective relating to halal product manufacturer in protecting consumer, and to suggest possible recommendation towards manufacturer in providing protection in halal industry for consumer. The data was gathered using a qualitative method based on library research from books, journal, website, and articles. For analysis and discussion, first, concept of halal. Basically, everything created by Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala is halal, and only a few prohibitions are found in the Quran and Hadith. The term of halal comes from an Arabic word which means allowed, lawful, approved, legal, and permitted by Islamic law. The concept of halal also mentioned in the Article 3 of the Trade Description Definition of Halal Order 2011. This provision conforms to the concept of halal and tayyiban, which means all food and goods must consist of halal ingredient to be eaten or used by Muslim, and not mixed with with anything that is not halal to eat or use. Besides, all equipment used for the preparation, processing, manufacturing, packaging, and marketing of food and beverage shall be free from dirty and toxic substances. Next, consumer protection in Malaysia. According to Section 3, Clause 1 of the Consumer Protection Act 1999, consumer is a person or a group of persons who order or use, purchase goods, products or services primarily for personal, social, family, household and similar needs, not directly related to entrepreneurial or business activities. Muslim consumers are the largest consumer in Malaysia, and like other consumers, their rights should not be disputed anymore. Apart from the effort of Muslims to find halal, especially food, they also need to get proper protection. Consumer protection is an instrument for dealing with violation of consumer rights. The consumer community in Malaysia is very lucky to get protection from the authorities, namely the Ministry of Domestic Trade, Cooperative and Consumerism, as well as consumer bodies and associations that are always active in monitoring buying and selling activities and various matters relating to consumer. Consumer protection in Malaysia is growing with the enactment and enforcement of Act. The Ministry of Domestic Trade, Cooperative and Consumerism has enacted and amended various consumer law. Among them is the Consumer Protection Act 1999, which is the main source of legislation in consumer protection, and this act has led to the establishment of the Tribunal for Consumer Claims and the National Consumer Advisory Council. Besides, the Ministry of Domestic Trade, Cooperative and Consumerism has enforced law, namely Trade Description Act 2011 and Food Act 1983. Second, the legislation and Sharia perspective relating to halal product manufacturer in protecting consumer. To protect consumer in Malaysia, there are two approaches from the Malaysian law that related to consumer protection. In Malaysia, there are several provision under several acts that can be referred to as they relate to consumer protection in halal product, which is Trade Description Act 2011, Food Act 1983 and Consumer Protection 1999. First, Trade Description Act 2011. Through Section 28 and Section 29 of the Trade Description Act 2011, two orders has been created, namely the Trade Description Certificate and Marking of Halal Order 2011 and the Trade Description Definition of Halal Order 2011. Section 28 is the cause of the existence of Trade Description Definition of Halal Order 2011. Based on the definition of halal according to Article 3 of the Trade Description Definition of Halal Order 2011, it clearly shows that halal food covers every aspect of the food production in terms of its cleanliness, free from contamination and healthy food as prescribed by the Islamic law. Based on the powers under Section 29, the Ministry of Domestic Trade, Cooperative and Consumerism has issued the Trade Description, Certification and Marking of Halal Order 2011 and recognized Department of Islamic Development Malaysia (JAKIM) and State Islamic Religious Council as reputable halal certification agencies in Malaysia. Next, Food Act 1983. The existence of Food Act 1983 and its regulation has become the provision that protect consumers by ensuring that any food supplier cannot contain elements that are harmful to health either in terms of food preparation, sales and consumption of a food item. Although halal is not the main objective and not explicitly mentioned in the Food Act 1983, but implicitly this provision also discusses the aspect of hygiene, purity, health and food quality that comply with the concept of halal and thayyiban. Section 13 and 16 of the Food Act 1983 contain provisions pertaining to food product. Next, Consumer Protection Act. The Consumer Protection Act is the main law that protects consumer and its main objective is to provide optimal protection to consumer, and this provision covers parts that are not covered by other existing law. Part 2 of the Consumer Protection Act 1999 provides a prohibition on suppliers for misleading and deceptive conduct, false representation and unfair practices. Part 5 of the Consumer Protection Act 1999 provide for guarantees that must be complied with by supplier in the supply of goods. In Part 12, Section 85 of the Consumer Protection Act 1999 and indicates that the Tribunal for Consumer Claim has been established for consumer to claim damage from suppliers or manufacturer in a simple, cheap and fast manner. Section 32 impose liability on the supplier to supply goods which are acceptable in quality, while Section 34 shows imply guarantee that the good supplied to a customer should correspond with the description. This provision can indirectly prevent consumers from being misled or deceived by certain expressions that clearly contradict the goods offered, especially those related to halal goods. In Islamic law, product manufacturers, especially Muslim traders, are bound by the order to seek halal sustenance through business that is pleasing to Allah. First, provide halal and thayyiban food which is pure, safe and good quality. Halal and thayyiban refers to food that is permissible according to the Quran and taught by the Prophet Muhammad SAW, as well as good and clean for human consumption. Imam Al-Ghazali in Kitab Ihya Ulumuddin explained that every Muslim should prioritize something that is halal, avoid something that is haram and stay away from everything that is doubtful or shubhah. Every Muslim who works in the food and beverage industry must follow the process of preparation of halal food and drinks from the time the raw material is prepared until it is placed on the table. Second, provides all the product information correctly and complete. Every consumer has the right to obtain correct and complete information about a product to facilitate consumer to make wise and accurate decision in purchasing product. This right is extending to prevent consumers from viewing misleading, advertising, dishonest labeling and other practices such as falsification of information, fraud, and misrepresentation by manufacturers. Islam has banned several things in business activity. Among them, a manufacturer must not be deceptive, not honest, and irresponsible in giving information about a product and concealing item to get higher profit. Ihtikar. Next, my third analysis is recommendation towards manufacturer in providing protection in halal industry for consumer. First, the manufacturer only use the Malaysia Halal logo and halal certificate which is recognized by the Department of Islamic Development Malaysia JAKIM or the State Islamic Religious Council. For manufacturers who want to obtain halal certification for food and beverage product, consumer goods, premise food and slaughterhouse must be recognized by JAKIM or the State Islamic Religious Council only. This is to avoid the issue of fake certificates, the use of halal certificate for unrecognized foreign bodies, the use of incorrect halal logo and the dissemination of false and inaccurate information. Second, the manufacturer need to be careful in sourcing raw material to produce food. Halal status does not only depends on the food produced alone, but it covers the source of raw materials and the process of producing food product is also very important. The manufacturer also needs to ensure that the raw material purchased in the market are from Islamic trader or from slaughterhouse that are recognized as halal by JAKIM. Third, the manufacturer can cooperate with halal enforcement agency such as JAKIM and State Islamic Religious Council. The manufacturer should invite the halal enforcement to inspect and evaluate the product or premise whether it is truly halal and complies with halal and Thayyiban standard. Besides, the manufacturer is required to attend regular courses conducted by JAKIM, the Ministry of Domestic Trade, Cooperative and Consumerism, or by Health Department. Manufacturer can add knowledge in providing protection in halal industry for consumer. The manufacturer can also take this course to gain training and skill in the production of halal product. In fact, they need to be given an understanding of the concept of hygiene that is current requirement related to handling. Finally, to conclude, concept of halal and Thayyiban covers all aspects of safety, starting from the process of preparation, manufacturing and production process until it is presented to the consumer. When the concept of halal and Thayyiban is highlighted, consumer will be more confident to this product which is clean, pure and safe. Any effort to improve the effectiveness of existing law also require good cooperation from all parties, especially manufacturers and halal enforcement agencies, and it needs to be done continuously in line with the country hope to become the world halal hub. While enforcement agency and manufacturer are responsible for ensuring consumer protection, consumer also need to look to their respective right as protection to them. That's for my final year project presentation. Now I will talk about my experience in doing research for my final year project. In doing this research, the biggest benefit I got was skill, which means skill in making proposal, framework, making analysis, as well as creativity and the ability and finding data. The most challenging in completing this research is managing time. In doing research, I need to be really focused on completing it, and at the same time, I also need to complete assignment for other subjects. Among the way to overcome this challenge is create a daily schedule to divide the time to do this research and other subject assignment, and also I had set a time limit to complete a task. My suggestion and advice to anyone who will be doing research or final year project is to make sure there is progress every week. We must strive not to delay in completing the final year project to ensure the smooth process of completing this research. Please meet with the supervisor every week to improve this research. So that's bring us to the end. I would like to thank you for your time and attention today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.